This world is so unfair. Why can Qin Wuyue and Qin Feng get power? And get power. But I don't accept it. Qin Wuyue. You said you are my sister, so you are my sister. Do you really think you are the only ones with power? Qin Feng. Stabilize Qin Feng first. At least stay by his side. Now it seems that my guess is right. He is really the shadow. I am so smart. As long as I stay by his side, I will definitely rise in this life. However, he remembers that I poisoned him in the last life. He will definitely not trust me too much. I will not have. I can only wait. First, cooperate with him with all your strength to make him stronger. When Qin Wuyue comes down again, we will see that they are both defeated. In addition, I have to use Qin Feng's reputation to cultivate my own power. When they are both defeated, I will kill them all. The finger of the blood source ancient god. The mysterious eyeball of the ancient god. Qin Xiaoyu dug them all. Also, there is that bitch called Guiling, and the Jisi next to you. And Gu Yishui wait until I admit my mistake and return to his side. What else do you have to do with me? Wonderful. Too wonderful. When Qin Feng saw Qin Xiaoyu's thoughts, he really had to admire her dreaming ability. This is simply against the sky. Of course, Qin Xiaoyu was a little scared when she was thinking about the plan. She was not only afraid of Qin Wuyue's methods, but also afraid of the hell illusion set by Qin Feng for her. But she still decided to do it, because in her opinion, even if all these plans fail, everything will start over in the end. Really ordinary and confident. Qin Feng looked at Qin Xiaoyu expressionlessly. She didn't know yet that Qin Feng saw through her memory, her soul, and knew all the thoughts in her mind now. When Qin Feng took back the soul control rule, she regained consciousness. She still looked pitiful and looked at Qin Feng with hope. Until now, she still believed that as long as she admitted her mistakes, Qin Feng would forgive her, just like many times in the previous life. However, everything is different now. Qin Feng looked at Qin Xiaoyu indifferently under the mask. Are you trying to say that I am not reborn by myself? But the whole civilization. Are you trying to say that we have a sister? Qin Wuyue, who will come down to slaughter us every time we reincarnate. Are you trying to say that Qin Wuyue has the power of the blood source ancient god? And that power was given to her by me. When these words came out one after another, Qin Xiaoyu was stunned on the spot. Huh. How do you know? I know everything. I also know that you tried to wait for an opportunity to stay by my side and wait for Qin Wuyue and I to be defeated, then find a way to dig out our fingers and eyeballs, Lan Feng said, sneering. Qin Xiaoyu, you really like to dig things. Boom. Qin Xiaoyu was like being struck by a bolt from the blue, and she stayed there completely. She suddenly felt creepy. The place of judgment. The place of judgment. You are the master here. Nothing here can escape your observation. At this moment, Qin Xiaoyu's face turned extremely pale. Before she could say anything else, the scene in front of her suddenly changed, and she found that she had returned to the hell-like scene again. And this time what appeared in front of her was the hell of crucifixion. She will be cut into pieces. And this time, her executioner is the figure of Qin Wuyue. Qin Xiaoyu understood. She was thrown back into the hell-like punishment illusion again. Qin Feng, you can't do this. Even if I dug out your eyes, you are living well now. Aren't you? Rebirth as Shadow is also my contribution, isn't it? Shouldn't like Songfei. I will listen to you in everything from now on. Even if you lock me up and don't let me go anywhere, I will listen to you. Soon. Qin Xiaoyu's punishment began again. Her body was cut one by one. She fell into unimaginable pain again, and she had no chance to get out. When she felt a little desperate, her eyes began to be filled with hatred. Qin Xiaoyu Feng, you are not a human. Woo. Oh my god. Why are my brothers and sisters so perverted and bully me like this? No, you are more perverted than Qin Wuyue. I am so pitiful. Qin Feng, you torture me like this. You will die a miserable death. Do you think you are Qin Wuyue's opponent? She has developed more than 200 years more than you. Your shadow is very strong, but you don't know how powerful Qin Wuyue is. She can kill you with just one finger. What can you use to fight her? Qin Feng, you are so stupid. It would have been great if you had given me that little power finger at the beginning. You gave it to her, and she tortured and killed you for more than 20 reincarnations. What's even more ironic is that you will be tortured and killed by her more times in the future. No matter how many times it happens, you and I are just tools for her to become stronger. After Qin Feng threw her in again, he ignored her. In fact, Han Feng could use the soul harvesting rule to harvest Qin Xiaoyu's soul and completely wipe her out, but he didn't do it in the end. Qin Wuyue needs to use her and me to improve her strength, although I don't know the specific principle, but keeping Qin Xiaoyu may be useful at that time. Anyway, Qin Feng will not be short of souls, so it's okay to keep them as a bargaining chip against Qin Wuyue, and maybe they will have miraculous effects in the struggle with Qin Wuyue. Currently, Qin Feng is in the dark, and Qin Wuyue is in the light. As long as he develops well and takes one step at a time, it will not be difficult for Qin Feng to kill Qin Wuyue. After all, his authority of judgment is authentic, and the so-called blood source ancient god authority of Qin Wuyue is actually just servant seal. After dealing with this matter, Qin Feng finally said goodbye to Ashashi's. He took the 3 divine books obtained from the end of the road and returned to the hideout of the Evil Spirit Academy in the ruins of the Demon City. This trip to the Abyss Road broadened Qin Feng's horizons and obtained a huge amount of rewards, allowing him to upgrade a lot. After the upgrade is completed, there is nothing urgent for the time being. Go to Sichuan and capture Sister Li. Qin narrowed his eyes and thought to himself. Just at this time, Sichuan Shu ruins. Sichuan Shu poison. Sister of fate, I am not Sister Le, who poisoned Qin in the previous life. Her current business network has also begun to take shape, especially because of the existence of shadow in this life. Sister Li has made preparations in advance, specially trained a group of 12 young girls with top figures and looks for shadow. They are all pure girls, and they are from different constellations, with different body shapes and figures. Sister Li is very strict in their training, because once there is a chance, Sister Li will give Shadow this gift so as to connect with Shadow. Just at this time, outside Sichuan Shu ruins, the originally gray sky suddenly reflected a piece of fire, illuminating the sky red. Just when the players in Sichuan Shu ruins were all in doubt, a piece of news soon spread. Legendary boss. A legendary boss suddenly appeared. There is a volcano on the back of the boss, and the volcano erupted directly. Evacuate the crowd quickly. Other players in Sichuan and Shu, whether they were from the Shidaoshan Guild or the official guild, were shocked when they heard the news, and they were all ready to face a great enemy. Only Sister Li, who was training 12 young girls in the basement, was enlightened when she heard the news. The legendary boss is coming. Isn't that Shadow coming? You all, get ready. When any one of you can get along well with Shadow. Don't forget that it was Sister Li who pulled you ashore. Qin never expected this. He had just returned from the Land of Judgment and was planning to upgrade his equipment. As a result, the news from Wanye Weiyu came, saying that a legendary monster appeared in Sichuan. This news surprised Qin a little, because in his memory, in the early stage of the Blue Star game, there were no legendary monsters in the Sichuan region. As far as I know, there were only 5 legendary monsters in the previous life of Blue Star, except for the Kesha Magic Mirror and the Mechanical Cube. The other 3 legendary monsters are not in Daxia. One is in the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean. One is in the southern part of Africa. Another one is in the Arctic. Of course, Qin only knew the approximate location, which was the news that came out after these legendary bosses were conquered in the previous life. Since Qin level is not low, he can get a lot of first-hand information at the official level. However, these bosses, none of them will appear in the Sichuan Shu area. Even the remaining 3 places are a long way from the Sichuan Shu ruins. Right, Qin frowned. Could it be that this has triggered the conditions for the release of high-level bosses? In the previous life, players first killed epic bosses 2 or 3 years later. The first kill of legendary bosses was 4 or 5 years later, according to the research of some experts. When enough epic bosses and legendary bosses are killed around the world, a new boss release mechanism will be triggered. In other words, because I killed 3 legendary bosses, so the monster spawning mechanism was triggered. At present, Qin can only guess this way, and the situation in the Sichuan Shu ruins seems to be quite urgent. Just outside the Sichuan ruins, a mountain suddenly cracked open, and a 3-eyed goat over 50 meters tall walked out of the mountain. There was a volcano-like bulge on its back, and it spewed flames around it as soon as it appeared. The flames came with 3 affixes: Wither, Corrupt, and Peel, and came with extremely high continuous damage. But what's strange is, the name of the boss is Dedisalo de Anzum. While conveying the information, Wanye Weiyu was a little confused. A goat over 50 meters tall is as tall as a hill. How can it be a bug? When Qin heard this description, as well as the name of the boss, he was finally sure. This was indeed a type of boss he had never encountered before. From the Great Disaster Hades, to the Snake Girl Samia, and then to the later Kesha Magic Mirror and Mechanical Cube. These all appeared in the previous life. That is to say, these bosses will participate in the reincarnation of Blue Star like the players of Blue Star and almost all NPC. But the number of bosses on Blue Star alone is not enough to support the players hunting for 10 years, so we need to send extra ones. Qin narrowed his eyes and thought. So, from here on, many bosses from now on are those I have never seen in my previous life. They are all coming to Blue Star for the first time. If they die, will they return to the world they originally belonged to and reincarnate again, or die completely? Qin didn't know this question. But he didn't need to think so much. For Qin what he needed to do was kill. If a boss was sent to give equipment and evolution points, wouldn't it be better to kill it? Of course, facing unfamiliar monsters, Qin certainly couldn't just rush in. Since there is a big eye at home, it would be a waste not to use it. Dead Isopod. It sounds like something a bit disgusting. Qin felt a little scared when he heard the name, because there is such a thing as King Isopod on Blue Star, which is commonly known as corpse beetles. In some places, some people even like to eat this thing. Qin couldn't quite understand it. He could only say that the diversity of human races is still too rich. So, what exactly is this dead isopod? Okay, I'll check the relevant information first, and then go to Sichuan. Qin replied to Wanye Weiyu. You asked them to evacuate the crowd first, and let all the players within 100 kilometers go offline. Every epic and legendary boss, if not handled properly, will bring huge disasters to the players. Therefore, even if the players within 100 kilometers are evacuated, it is not too much. Even the subsequent mythical boss will be destroyed. Appear. All players in the city must enter the shelter. If the shelter is not timely, there is a high probability of problem. However, it is obvious that there will be no mythical boss at this stage. The game stage of Blue Star is still too early. At least when the players reach level 40 or 50, the mythical boss will be released. I have to hurry up to upgrade. I don't know what the level 35 test that Ashas will give me will be. The level 25 test is already for me to touch the power of judgment. The level 35 test. It may exceed my expectations, Xinfeng thought. While he went to find Big Eyes to check the information, he used the Book of Divine Grant he got from the End Road to start making advanced materials for strengthening equipment. Peeling stone, order stone, strengthening stone. Xinfeng can be said to be quite time-saving. Now ask and do. By the time we get to the Sichuan ruins, my equipment will be almost enhanced. Xinfeng first spent 7,000 years and made 20 of each material. If he made more, the cost would double. So Xinfeng didn't continue for the time being and strengthened his equipment first while waiting for the production process. Xinfeng came to the front of the Eye of Knowledge Aristotle. Originally, this Big Eye was playing mahjong with a group of old men. After receiving Qinfeng's order, he immediately flashed to the exclusive garden where Qinfeng was. Dead isopods. This kind of monster has a powerful order ability to control other creatures. The name of this order is parasitism. Under normal circumstances, the dead isopods will not appear in their original form, but will parasitize other organisms. Only by killing the parasites first can you see their original form. And the dead isopods have a very high level of stealth and can quickly parasitize any human player's body. Once parasitized, you will be devoured by it every 2 seconds. If a human player's skill is cannibalized, the skill will be lost forever. And when the undead isopod has cannibalized more than 3 skills, it will be able to refresh the cooldown of parasitism and parasitize other units. To stop it from parasitizing, you must kill the parasitized unit within 6 seconds, so that its parasitism will enter a 60-second cooldown, and it will not be able to parasitize within 1 minute. For an average player team, finding the parasitized unit and killing it within 6 seconds will be the biggest difficulty in conquering this boss. Parasitic Order. Xinfeng was a little shocked by the information provided by Big Eyes. This legendary boss, Dead Isopod, is a little scary. The previous Great Disaster Hades could only manipulate corpses, but this undead isopod can actually parasitize living beings directly. This boss is extremely difficult to attack for any team. Even from Qinfeng's perspective, it is quite tricky to deal with. Indeed, Xinfeng doesn't need to worry about being parasitized by it. After all, it is the power of order. Since it is order, it can be offset by consuming divinity. But Big Eyes also provided some additional information. Regarding the body of the dead isopod, its physical combat ability is also quite strong. Its speed, defense, and attack power are very high, especially the speed, because its body is very small. Its speed can reach 3 times the speed of sound at the fastest, which is a speed that even Qinfeng can hardly catch up with now. It seems that I still need to stack some speed. Xinfeng sighed a little. High-level monsters are generally not too slow. Xinfeng didn't need this before. After all, his speed was already fast enough. But next, the opponent's Qinfeng encounters will become faster and faster. For example, this dead isopod, with a speed of 3 times the speed of sound, will definitely not be caught up if you don't deliberately stack the speed attribute. And Qinfeng's current speed attribute, in addition to the high basic agility, comes from a pair of sonic shoes. But relying on this pair of shoes alone, it is still impossible to catch up with the dead isopod. I still need something to increase the speed. I do have some speed increasing items in my warehouse, but there is no need to search for them now. That would be a waste of time. Anyway, this undead isopod can be invisible, right? Then it's dead. Qinfeng smiled faintly. He did not ask how many stealth levels the boss had. For this level 30 legendary boss, the highest stealth level is only 11 or 12. Again, the same thing. The boss was released to be conquered by players, and it is impossible to directly release a boss that the current level players cannot defeat. So, if a level 30 boss can be permanently invisible, then its stealth level must not exceed the limit that a level 30 player can reach. And it may even be slightly lower than the limit. In this case, Xinfeng can see through its stealth at a glance. First, see through its invisibility, so that all its upper affixes are invalid, naturally including inviolable, then a slow curse. Directly teach it to be a human now. It is not a human, so let's teach it to be a bug. Death will be its only destination. Then, Xinfeng learned about some of the action rules and characteristics of the undead isopod from Big Eyes, so that it can be truly foolproof. Then, Qinfeng set off. Before setting off, Qinfeng emphasized to Wanye Weiyu again that she should evacuate all players around the boss, and let all players within 100 kilometers go offline. After all, with the boss is 3 times the speed of sound. If there is any mistake, it can run dozens of kilometers around in a minute at most. As long as there are players, they will become the target of parasitism. If it parasitizes in the player's body and never comes out, then even Qinfeng may not be able to find the other party. In short, Qinfeng will not give the boss any chance to escape. Then, Qinfeng directly teleported to the Sichuan ruins through the teleportation array. He and Wanye Weiyu got the coordinates of the boss, spread the wings of death, and flew over, since he had to get there as soon as possible. Qinfeng was still quite responsible. In order to be faster, Xinfeng did not even summon Osiris, but flew over himself. On the way, Qinfeng opened the equipment interface. Those high-level materials have just been manufactured, and it's time to upgrade. Stripping stone. First, strip off the special effects of Roslav's contract. This special effect can enhance the effect of inviolability, from resisting control effects to resisting all negative effect. The mythical resurrection armor of Ascension Machine must be worn, but the legendary special effect cannot be discarded. So, Qinfeng used 4 stripping stones in succession, and successfully stripped off the special effect, and added it to the Ascension Machine. Each piece of equipment can only add one special effect from other equipment, and it must be equipment in the same part. It is equivalent to that the special effect of clothes can only be added to the same part of the equipment, if it can be transferred to clothes. The special effects of leggings can only be transferred to leggings, and so on. 4 peeling stones. I'm lucky. In fact, the probability of peeling for legendary special effects is about 30% to 40%, which is the data calculated by professionals in the previous life. Qinfeng spent 4 peeling stones to peel it out, and his luck was not very good. In the previous life, he would be heartbroken. After all, 1 peeling stone is several thousand years of life. But for Qinfeng now, I don't feel it at all. Is this the pleasure of Krypton Gold players? Comparing his situation in the previous life, Qinfeng couldn't help but sigh. Next, it was the Order Stone. Qinfeng also returned the order of the despicable Terminator that he had hit on the leather armor before into a sublimation scroll. This time he was lucky and succeeded with only 2 Order Stones, and he hit the sublimation scroll on the Ascension Machine again. Ascension Machine Mythic. Special. Upper threshold plus 15, and additionally reduce the accumulation speed of the upper affix scale by 37%. Special. Inviolability, 20. Unique special effect. Self-repair. When you die, you will automatically resurrect. Fixed cooldown of 1 hour note. Only effective once in reality. Additional special effect. Abyssal contract. Inviolability, a fixed effect replaced with can block all negative effects, but maximum health reduced by 50%. Contract from Roslav Legendary. Equipment point enhancement effect. Inviolability plus 17% enhancement range, 15%, 30%. Additional order. Despicable Terminator if the attack comes from behind. The attack is invalid. It is no exaggeration. Such an equipment, put on any player now, can make the player's combat power soar in an instant. Become an existence that completely crushes other players. It also has a mythical special effect and a very practical legendary special effect. Even without looking at the special effects, just the basic attributes, the attributes of one piece of equipment are several times higher than those of a full set of equipment. You should know that this Ascension Machine has 400 points of all attributes added. At this stage, other players' full body attributes added up to less than 400 points. A real piece of equipment beats a full set of equipment. And Qinfeng's creation is not over yet. There is also a strengthening stone. Strengthening stones can be used to strengthen the basic attributes of equipment, but it does not strengthen all basic attributes, but randomly strengthens one of them. And there is a 10%, 30% strengthening effect range. This thing is basically difficult to graduate, which allows players to pursue forever. Qinfeng took out a strengthening stone and clicked on the Ascension Machine. You use the strengthening stone on the equipment Ascension Machine Mythical. Boom. All element resistance, 80 arrive 1064, 8. It's crooked. Try it again. Qinfeng continued to use it without any regret. You use the strengthening stone on the equipment Ascension Machine Mythical level. Option 1. All element resistance, 80 arrive 1064, 8. Option 2. All attributes for 400 arrive 42. Please choose one to keep. Qinfeng continued to operate. And I have to say, this really feels like playing a stinky web game, but in the godforsaken game. This kind of rubbish gameplay is not something that ordinary players can experience. These 3 high-level materials are more expensive than one another. Even Qinfeng, who was one of the top 100 players in the world in the previous life, felt pain when using them, not to mention ordinary players. Of course, using these materials will naturally significantly improve the player's strength. Qinfeng has been using the strengthening stone on the Ascension Machine. Soon, after using 7 strengthening stones, he finally strengthened it to the item he wanted. Damage reduction plus 47%, arrive 60, 4%. The effect is quite good. Friends who often get beaten up in games know how significant the effect of this damage reduction attribute improvement will be. Then there is the mythical leggings Death Smokescreen. Qinfeng spent 4 strengthening stones and strengthened it to the item he wanted. Solid defense, client arrived 6%. This attribute is also one of the advanced attributes unique to mythical equipment. If there is no solid defense, then in PvP or when facing some special boss, all the player's defense and elemental resistance are useless and will become extremely vulnerable. But with the solid defense effect, even if the opponent has 100% penetration, the player will have some defense and elemental resistance retained. He used 3 more stripping stones to strip off the epic special effects of the original Witch Apostle Livia's Tears and transferred them to the Night Lotus Curse, Death Crusher, Divine Armed Necklace. In this way, all the assassin skill levels of Qinfeng were increased by 7 levels, and the basic cooling time was shortened by 20%. Ready. The legendary undead Isopod can bring me more than 20,000 evolution points. What is Qinfeng lacking the most in his development now? Of course, it is evolution points. It's a pity that during the end road, although I took the time to touch some boss corpses, I only got a few thousand evolution points. Qinfeng felt a little sorry. If time was not too tight, it would be like the Temple of Death, an excellent place to brush evolution points. But a few thousand points is not bad. Almost the income that half of the epic boss can bring. Just then, while flying, Qinfeng slowly raised his head and looked forward. There were almost no players to be seen between the endless mountains. It seemed that the official evacuation order was very effective. When Qinfeng approached the target coordinates, he saw a fire in the distance. Sure enough, there was a 50-meter tall three-eyed flame goat, looking for people to hunt everywhere. Unfortunately, the official response of Sichuan Shu was very quick. In a short period of time, the surrounding players basically logged off at the first time, not giving the boss any chance. Not bad. Kill the parasitic goat first. When the body of the undead worm comes out, see through its invisibility, slow it down, and send it back home with the last burst. Qinfeng had killed 3 legendary bosses before. This is the 4th one. With Qinfeng's current combat power, as long as he knows the boss mechanism, it is not difficult to kill the boss. After the damage is further enhanced, even the legendary boss can be killed in one wave. So, at the stealth level of 70, Qinfeng's Deathwings drew a track that no one could see, taking him to the 50-meter tall three-eyed flame goat. There was a volcanic protrusion behind the flame goat, which kept erupting flames, stripping, corruption, withering. The energy of the 3 higher level affixes burst out and poured around. For ordinary players, even dealing with this three-eyed flame goat is not easy. What's more, this is not the boss's body at all. But for Qinfeng, Shadow of Sorrow, 1,000 blades breaking, instant destruction. Qinfeng had full combo points on him, and there was no nonsense at all. That 50-meter tall, the flame goat was still roaring and snarling. Suddenly, the health bar on its head suddenly disappeared. 82 billion weak point attack. The last shot was instantly destroyed, directly exploding the throat cut damage attached to the 1,000 blade break. Under this simple damage number, the giant flame goat with only 500 million health points fell down on the spot with a wail. For Qinfeng, this is just the beginning. However, when Qinfeng flapped his wings and flew into the sky, he frowned when he looked down at the forest. When the goat's body fell, the flames spread around, and a piece of forest fire ignited. The forest fire and the forest blocked Qinfeng's vision. For a moment, Qinfeng didn't even see where the body of the undead Isopod was. This terrain is too disgusting, isn't it? Qinfeng looked at the surrounding flames rising into the sky and the dense jungles below, and he really felt that it was a bit tricky. But Big Eyes said that the undead Isopod is born with the perception of living organisms. In other words, it perceives the soul. It should be able to see my existence. Qinfeng was not in a hurry. He was waiting. The undead Isopod should come and try to parasitize him. Right? When the other party's body appears, that guy's death is coming. However, what Qinfeng didn't know was, when he killed the flame goat in one wave, the undead Isopod that was originally parasitic in the goat was shocked on the spot. Just now, this undead Isopod named Ansem thought that the Blue Star civilization was too weak. There are weak players of only level 10 around here. Why was I sent to such a weak civilization? Does anyone in this civilization really have the ability to kill a legendary boss? Ansem was very skeptical. It parasitized a giant flame goat. And even with the strength of a goat, it had already swept the surrounding area. Just now, it killed dozens of players in a blink of an eye. The only thing that surprised it was the reaction speed of the surrounding players. Not long after it appeared, the surrounding players actually went offline one by one, so it couldn't find anyone to kill even if it wanted to. It doesn't matter. For a weak civilization like this, as long as I find their player gathering place, I can grow here, Ansem thought to himself. But at this moment, boom! Before it could react, the blood bar of the flame goat it parasitized disappeared in an instant, and then fell in the forest. At this moment, Ansem's tentacles became stiff. Seconds? How is this possible? Isn't this blue planet a planet with a weak civilization? Others are only level 10, and someone can kill a legendary boss in seconds. It's him. At this moment, Ansem saw the figure of Qinfeng flying in the sky with death wings spread out. To be precise, it sensed Qinfeng with its racial talent, although it can parasitize, but at this moment, it saw the figure in the sky and had an extremely strong premonition of danger. Can't fight him. Run! The undead Isopod Ansem decided to follow his intuition and sneak out of the body of the flame goat, because the body of the flame goat was too big and the flames were spreading around. It really avoided Qinfeng's observation. After all, the body of this thing is only the size of a baby's palm, so it really got away with it. Moreover, this guy was extremely fast, running several kilometers in just a few seconds. At this time, it came to a mountainside and suddenly saw a group of human female players in front. Hey, there are still players here who haven't logged off. What a good opportunity. There are such terrifying players on Blue Star. I can't keep running away, but if I parasitize a player, I can temporarily avoid his pursuit. The undead Isopod, like a dead gray corpse beetle, suddenly jumped in the invisible state, instantly parasitized the body of a female player who seemed to have the highest status, and the female player it chose to parasitize, the codename on the head was, "A Fate I Am Not Sister Lee." This woman really brought the 12 young girls she trained to come here to hook up with Qin Feng. Who would have thought? The boss body is an insect that can parasitize players. Immediately, Sister Lee's body became stiff, but her consciousness was still active. But she found that she could not control her own body. Accompanied by a system prompt come. You are parasitized by the dead isopod enzyme legendary. One of your skills will be cannibalized every 2 seconds. You will lose the cannibalized skills forever. Sister Lee doesn't understand. She just brought people here to hook up with Shadow. How come she was parasitized by some bug? Wasn't the flame goat in the distance killed instantly? The woman didn't get close to observe the name above the boss's head. So, I really didn't know that the boss's body would actually be an insect. A few minutes ago, Sister Lee has brought the 12 young girls she trained to the vicinity of the giant flame goat. As the president of a guild, she has an official contact person in her friend list. During this period, Sister Lee has received many warning messages from various channels, asking all players near the flame goat boss to log off to avoid danger. But Sister Lee completely ignored these warnings. What she wants now is to be able to connect with the legendary Shadow. This woman doesn't know how glorious she was in her previous life, but she knows that her life is quite bad now. People like her, who want to control many subordinates and even big bosses, will definitely have many enemies. In the previous life, she was able to suppress those enemies directly with an iron-blooded wrist. Even the Shu Daoshan Guild could not suppress her steadily, but was evenly matched. However, in this life, Sister Lee's development has not changed much, but the Shu Daoshan Guild has risen earlier because Qin Feng helped it. Guier looks at the sword and I don't eat bamboo. The president and vice president of the Shu Daoshan Guild are against Sister Lee everywhere. How can Sister Lee tolerate this? So, she couldn't wait to get in touch with Shadow, so as to get some benefits and develop herself faster. Even deep in her heart, she still has the idea of controlling Shadow. After all, her profession and talent are related to poison. Shadow is also a human. Why can't he be controlled? Just like, now she is training these 12 young girls. These girls are just over 18 years old. Sister Lee carefully selected them, secretly acted, and used the blood poison skill in reality to make these girls extremely dependent on her blood poison. If it doesn't work, there are also severe toxins that attack at regular intervals without my antidote. It will be extremely painful. There is always one suitable for Shadow. This is what Sister Lee thought. And the first step she needs to take now is to add Shadow as a friend. This is the first step of all her ideas plans, and it is also the most critical step. Therefore, when the boss came, she brought people to approach, but did not listen to the official warning at all, but continued to stay there and pretend to kill monsters. After all, Sister Lee didn't know when Qin Feng would come, so she planned to approach the boss corpse after the boss died. But she never expected it. When the boss, which was as big as a hill, fell to the ground and she was leading people to rush over there, suddenly, she lost control of her body, and at the same time, the system prompt came. She was parasitized by a legendary dead isopod. Wait, no? Permanently eat away at one of my skills every 2 seconds. No. Sister Lee began to cry out in her heart as she was parasitized. But it was no use. At her current level, she could not resist the parasitism of the undead isopod, and she didn't know what she had encountered. Especially, the 12 girls behind her all followed her, trembling and not daring to speak. They had no idea what was going on. Normally, to attack the main body of the undead isopod, you must identify who is parasitized within 6 seconds and then kill it. In this way, the undead isopod cannot parasitize again within 60 seconds. To kill it, you need a very high anti-stealth ability, superordinate affixed stripping ability, super fast speed, or range attack ability. Players at this stage do not have any of these abilities. Kal Gaga. Gaga! Sister Lee heard a slight strange sound in her body that only she could hear, which made her more frightened. Your skill Flower Poison has been eaten. You have permanently lost the skill Flower Poison. Your skill Toxic Shield has been eaten. You have permanently lost the skill Toxic Shield. Every 2 seconds, one of Sister Lee's skills was eaten. At this time, the undead isopod was used to controlling her body, and every time it eats her skills, it will gain one of her skills and copy part of her memory from it. No. Sister Lee found that now, let alone talking. She couldn't even open the character attribute panel, and couldn't even log off. Everything about her was controlled by the undead isopod. So, this woman is regretting it now. Why didn't she listen to the official advice and go offline? Take refuge. The 12 girls behind her were confused. Why did Sister Lee stop moving while walking, standing quietly in the same place, as if she had become a stiff zombie? And Qin Feng waited for a few seconds in the same place. As a result, he did not wait for the boss to rush towards him. This made him realize that something was wrong at the first time. That guy will not run away. Right. Qin Feng was a little speechless. How come this undead isopod has no dreams at all? Why not try to parasitize him? Alas, insects are lame. Qin Feng couldn't help but said something. Fortunately, he flew around in the sky and carefully searched around. Soon he found that more than a dozen female players gathered not far away. The situation seemed a bit strange. If this bug runs away, once it sees a player, it will definitely parasitize it directly, thereby eroding its skills and obtaining part of the player's memory. This way, we can understand the world better. This is naturally one of the information provided by Big Eyes Aristotle. At the same time, Big Eyes also provided another piece of information. That is, the undead isopod is also good at parasitizing the player's body, imitating the player's behavior, and disguising itself. If it does not take the initiative to leave the parasitic player and pretends to be that player to act, then it is difficult for outsiders to realize that the player is parasitized. But it's okay. For this situation, Big Eyes also provided a very simple and crude solution. After all, the undead isopod belongs to the insect family, and its thinking ability has serious logical defects, which means that this thing can barely understand simple addition, but it can never learn multiplication. So, the simplest way to identify who is parasitized is to ask the multiplication formula, at least in Aristotle's racial knowledge base. This method is used to deal with the dead isopods, and it works every time. Okay, let's go! Qinfeng lifted his invisibility. He spread out his 6 wings of death and instantly landed in front of the dozen or so female players. At the same time, Qinfeng directly turned on the option of automatically consuming divinity to offset any order effect, in order to avoid being parasitic and not having time to operate. In this way, it is foolproof. When the death wings behind Qinfeng folded and fell from the sky in an instant, the girls in the field suddenly breathed quickly, and they looked at him with wide eyes, and their heartbeats suddenly accelerated. These girls are all under Sister Lee's command, or they were forced to come here by her and trained in various skills to serve men, and they have only one goal, that is shadow. They tried to resist. They also tried to escape. But because of the influence of blood poison in their bodies, they will be in great pain once it attacks. Only Sister Lee's blood poison can relieve their symptoms. And as they take more and more blood poison, their dependence on blood poison becomes stronger and stronger. However, this is not the traditional severe poison in the past. It is not physical, but mental. In fact, as long as Sister Lee is killed, their symptoms will be completely relieved. But unfortunately, they don't know, so they can only be forced to be controlled by Sister Lee. The only thing they are thankful for is that their appearance and figure are top-notch, so they were not sent out by Sister Lee to please other big guys. Instead, they were all trained and prepared to be given to Shadow. This also made them not have much resistance. After all, if I could really be with Shadow, it would be pretty good to think about it. At this moment, the Shadow, who was closely related to their fate, appeared in front of them, just like that. It made their heartbeats speed up, and their hearts were filled with tension, fear, worry, and some small expectations and excitement. Especially, add me as a friend. Qinfeng glanced at the female players in the field and said something. It made these girls feel flattered. In fact, when Qinfeng saw these female players, he felt a little surprised. These female players seem to be a little different from ordinary female players. No matter their appearance or figure, each one is enough to be the dream goddess of many men, and they also have different styles. Some are petite and cute, some are gentle as water, and some are sexy and royal. It seems that it is very deliberate. Qinfeng didn't think too much, just added them as friends first. Don't get me wrong. Qinfeng added them as friends, not because he had any special ideas, but because he wanted to ask them about the multiplication formula at the same time through private chats with friends. Whoever can't answer is parasitized by the undead isopod. Finally, Qinfeng looked at the witch who looked like the leader in front of the 12 girls. Sister Lee. Isn't this too coincidental? I wanted to kill this legendary boss and find this woman, but she came to me. Qinfeng was a little surprised. And if the undead isopod wants to parasitize someone, it will most likely choose the leader, right? Me. No matter what, Qinfeng added all 13 female players as friends. Player Mu Yanyan has agreed to your friend request. Player A Yuanfen, I am not Sister Lee, has agreed to your friend request. Player Gulu Lingbo has agreed to your friend request. Player Enshorin has accepted your friend request. Qinfeng's move made the girls in the field happy. Sister Lee was a little tearful. All added friends. All the methods I had prepared were not used. That's good news. But the bad news is that I'm now parasitized by insects. The undead isopod accepted Qinfeng's friend request on behalf of Sister Lee. Bang! Bang! Listening to the strange insect sounds in her body that only she could hear, Sister Lee wanted to die. Nearly half a minute had passed. Sister Lee had a total of 40 or 50 skills, and 1/3 of them had been eaten away. As for the undead isopod, it acquired some of Sister Lee's memories by eating away her skills, so it also learned some information. This human player from Blue Star who killed my parasite in seconds. Codename Shadow. Bang! Bang, he has killed 3 legendary bosses. Too scary. This world is full of malice towards me. But this human female I parasitized seems to have a way to deal with this Shadow. Shadow is a human male. He has the urge and instinct to reproduce, and the 12 human females I brought with me are specially trained to match him. Sure enough, he added everyone as a friend right away. Bang, stupid human male. Maybe this aspect can be used as a breakthrough, because Qinfeng's combat power is too strong. He has killed 3 legendary bosses. The undead isopod is almost 99% sure that Qinfeng is armed with divine power. Exists. So it didn't dare to try to parasitize Qinfeng rashly. Once it failed, its whereabouts would be exposed to Qinfeng, and it would be killed. But at this moment, Sister Lan, who was parasitized by the undead isopod, and the other 12 beautiful girls, all received a voice private chat from Qinfeng. I ask you a question, and you answer it in half a second based on your intuition. This private chat made them all a little confused. What's going on? The 12 beautiful girls were even more confused. After all, they didn't know that Sister Lee next to them had been parasitized by the undead isopod. Moreover, they didn't know whether Qin Feng said this to her alone or to everyone around them in a private chat. Before they could react, Qin Feng's question came. What is 7 times 8? This. The 12 beautiful girls, whether they were queens or Lolita, were all a little dumbfounded. This shadow added me as a friend just to test my math problems. 56. 56. 56. Although they were confused, but the girls still answered the question reflexively. What disappointed Qin Feng was, of the 13 female players who had just added friends, only 10 answered his question. Among the others who did not answer, there were 2 girls besides Sister Lee, from Qin Feng's perspective. It was very strange. Damn. Is there anyone who can't recite the multiplication table these days? 3 people didn't answer it. How can I tell who is a bug and who is a human? Qin Feng had the urge to vomit blood, but fortunately, when Qin Feng asked this question, the undead isopod parasitic in Sister Lee's body immediately felt the danger coming. Multiplication. Oh my god. This man actually used multiplication to test bugs. Who the hell is he? The undead isopod. Enzyme. Could not imagine why this human player knew its weakness. For a moment, the undead isopod dared not wait any longer, because it did not expect that there would be humans who did not know how to multiply. In its opinion, once Qin Feng asked this question, its existence would be exposed. So, parasitism. The undead isopod took the initiative to jump out and attack Qin Feng from behind. Now, it can only hope that this human male assassin does not have divine weapons. You blocked the parasitic order from the dead isopod Enzyme legendary? Bah. You consumed 104 points of divinity. Bah. Qin Feng was a little surprised when he heard the system prompt. 2 girls hadn't answered this question yet, but the bug couldn't hold back and jumped out by itself. Not bad. But this collision actually cost me 104 points of divinity. This is a lifespan of 1040 years. From another perspective, if the divinity limit of the player's divine weapon is not 104 points, it can't even resist the launch of its parasitic order. Like this one-time order, it will consume more divinity to resist, instead of consuming divinity every second like a continuous order. Not good. The dead isopod rammed into Qin Feng's metal spring armor, making him dizzy. At the same time, after the parasitism failed, its parasitism ability also entered a 60-second cooldown. Hurry! The undead isopod turned around and planned to flee without any hesitation. But at this moment, very quickly, Qin Feng also turned around and saw the undead isopod and the 12th level of invisibility at a glance. At this moment, the passive effect of Umbra Perception was activated. When Qin Feng saw through the invisibility of the undead isopod, the undead isopod instantly fell into a state of being 100% stripped and lost its vision, hearing, touch, taste, and smell at the same time. With the loss of the 5 senses, the undead isopod was panicked for a moment. But fortunately, it still had the 6th sense of perceiving organism. It directly identified the direction based on the positions of Qin Feng and the 13 female players. In short, the farther the better. However, the undead isopod soon felt that its actions were like being stuck in a quagmire. You have been hit by the Abyss Slow Curse. Your speed has been reduced by 99%. 99% finally effective. 9%. Bang. Abyss Curse. The undead isopod was confused, but the effect of the Abyss Slow Curse seems to be a 99% slowdown, right? How did it become 99? 99%? It seems that the difference is not big, but in fact, the difference is too big. If it is the initial Abyss Slow Curse, slowing down by 99%, then the speed is equivalent to 1% of the original. And now the speed is only 110,000 of the original. Of course, it has a boss template and is naturally resistant to all control effects. Originally, its inviolable affix can protect it from any control. But when it is 100% stripped, its inviolable affix becomes invalid. Then only the control resistance of the boss template can be used. If it is a 99% deceleration, then the actual deceleration effect is only 9%. So it basically has no big impact. But Qin Feng's ancient level Abyss Slow Curse directly slows down by 10,000 times. Even if there is a boss template to resist the control effect, the final deceleration is 1,000 times. And the consequence of this is the speed of the undead isopod, which originally reached 3 times the speed of sound, suddenly slowed down by 1,000 times. And it could only jump less than 1 meter in 1 second. The basic duration of the Abyss Slow Curse is 240 seconds, but it only takes effect for 24 seconds for this boss. It has to be said that the control resistance of the legendary boss is still very strong, but for Qin Feng, let alone 24 seconds. Even 4 seconds is enough. When the undead isopod appeared, Qin Feng turned around and saw through its invisibility, and then Qin Feng raised his hand to release the Abyss Slow Curse, which took no more than 0.1 seconds in total. Then came the Shadow of Slaughter, 1,000 blades break. Finally, instant destruction. It must be said that this undead isopod looks very small. But after all, it has the bonus of the legendary boss template, and its defense is many times higher than that of the flame 3-eyed goat just now. However, with the current damage level of Qin Feng, the burst is no longer something that a legendary boss can resist. 27 billion weak point attack. At this moment, the undead isopod, which can't see or feel anything, was killed instantly by the throat cut damage from the instant destruction. Player Shadow Daxia killed the legendary boss Undead Isopod Ansheim and gained 200 reputation points. Another system prompt sounded in the minds of all players around the world. In a short period of time, the Undead Isopod, the insect had already run away for dozens of meters. Therefore, the scene where Qinfeng followed and killed it instantly was not seen by Sister Lee and others. When Qinfeng appeared in front of Sister Lee and others again, he had already released the Greedy Hand twice on the corpse of the dead spirit isopod insect and reaped another great harvest. Tradable lifespan of 32,000 years, 24,000 evolution points. In addition, there are more than 20 mythical loot and more than 100 legendary loot. Even a divine weapon was exploded. It's a pity that this divine weapon is not for assassins. Qinfeng felt a little uncomfortable. It was a divine weapon used by priests, a white ring, and the attached divine rule was violent death. During the activation process, the target's 45% health limit will be ignored. In other words, during the period when the violent death rule is in effect, as long as 55% of the target's health is killed, the target can be killed. And because it is the power of rules, it is fully effective even against boss level monsters, and even against legendary and mythical bosses. It would be great if this good thing could be transferred to a profession. Qinfeng felt extremely sorry. Although he can kill legendary bosses in seconds like a piece of cake, if he encounters a mythical boss, his current damage level is far from enough to kill it instantly. So the effect of this violent death rule is definitely known to everyone who uses it. Of course, if this equipment is given to other priests, the effect is also visible. The most difficult stage for many bosses to open up is the final stage. But if you have this ring, you can directly make the boss violently die before entering the final stage. Of course, the equipment requirement for this ring is level 30, and other players cannot equip it at this stage. Even if there is a big iron hammer to reduce the required level, it will also lead to a decrease in the value. It is likely to be reduced from ignoring 45% of the health value to ignoring 20% or even lower health value. Then the effect of this ring will be greatly reduced. Moreover, there is a limit to lowering the equipment requirement level by using a sledgehammer. Legendary equipment can be reduced to level 20 at most, and mythical equipment and divine weapons can only be reduced to level 25 at the lowest. That is also not something that current players can bring. I can only save it first. Qinfeng would never give such good equipment to the fairy sister. In addition, there is an assassin skill book and a pair of assassin shoes, all of which are mythical equipment. As for the legendary ones, although there are many assassin things, Qinfeng took a look and found that the skill books were either repeated or not very useful. Let's collect these spoils later. Now, I still have to deal with Sister Lee first. Qinfeng didn't waste any time. When he killed the undead isopod, Sister Lee and others were still immersed in the system prompt that Qinfeng killed the legendary boss. He had already returned to Sister Lee and others. Big boss, thank you so much. When Sister Lee saw Qinfeng, her eyes immediately filled with tears, and she looked like she was about to get close to him. Qinfeng held the white bud blade and raised his hand to cut him. This cut had no damage number, but Qinfeng activated the divine rule of soul harvest. When the knife passed through Sister Lee, her whole body suddenly stopped, and then she fell to the ground stiffly. She had never expected that Qinfeng would attack her directly. Her face was even filled with the relief of surviving the disaster and the excitement of making friends with Qinfeng. This scene made the 12 beautiful girls who also wanted to come up to thank Qinfeng stop their actions and instantly became silent. Qinfeng ignored them. Instead, he looked at the soul harvester, white bud blade in his hand. After the weapon harvested the first soul, Qinfeng felt that there seemed to be a consciousness awakening in the weapon, and that was probably from the former soul authority owner, Bai Ya, a female player from a certain civilization. No wonder there was no movement before. It turned out that she hadn't awakened yet. Before, the weapon wanted to escape. It should be relying on instinct, right? And now, Bai Ya, the owner of the servant seal of the same level as Qin Wu Yu, finally began to wake up. I came back from the hospital late yesterday and didn't have time to write. These 3 chapters make up for yesterday. If Qinfeng originally just felt that the dagger in his hand had a beating heart, it was equivalent to a plant person. Now, Qinfeng suddenly felt that the plant person suddenly woke up. What he held in his hand, it seemed to have become a conscious living creature. Of course, the white bud blade still could not move at will. Or in other words, when she was held by Qinfeng, she could not move at will, as long as Qinfeng held her. He had 100% control over her, but Qinfeng could feel. The dagger had the idea of wanting to move around. Once Qinfeng released it, the white S-shaped dagger could fly out at any time. At the same time, Qinfeng heard a system prompt in his mind. Player White Bud Heishingsing Civilization is applying for soul connection with you. Do you agree? Yes, no. Soul connection. Is this how this weapon wants to communicate with itself? Qinfeng was a little confused. Qinfeng had never heard of this soul connection method, and it was very likely a method of the Soul Emperor. Since it was not clear what the consequences of this soul connection would lead to, Qinfeng directly chose no. Just kidding. What if the soul is connected and is directly controlled by the other party? This possibility is not impossible. Even if it is not so serious, it is possible that what you think in your heart will be completely detected and sensed by the other party. Qinfeng naturally cannot accept such a result. I'll ask Ashaxes later, Qinfeng thought. However, when he put down the white bud blade, The system prompt came to his mind again. When Whitebud was rejected, it actually launched the Soul Connection application again. No. Qinfeng refused again. Then he pinched the handle of the Whitebud blade, lowered his voice, and uttered an ancient divine language. If you don't want to be completely crushed, keep quiet. After hearing these words, the Whitebud blade really quieted down. I don't know if it's an illusion. Qinfeng seemed to feel a trace of shame, tension, and anger from the Whitebud blade he was holding. The most obvious emotion was a bit of sadness. Maybe he was sad because he found that he had become a weapon. As for Qinfeng, it feels good. Qinfeng held the handle of the Whitebud blade and played with it in his hand, feeling the soft touch. The shape can rebound, and it is very flexible. It's pretty cool to play with it a few times when you have nothing to do. When the Whitebud blade quieted down, Qinfeng looked at the 12 girls in front of him through the dark white mask. These 12 girls have different styles. Some are Lolita, some are Queen, some are plump, some are thin, some are tall, some are short, and even have different personalities. Some look nervous and scared, while others open their eyes wide, staring at Qinfeng with great curiosity, looking eager to try. Some girls even had stars in their eyes. Shadow Master, you are so awesome. Because when Qinfeng killed Sister Li, they all received a system prompt. A fate I am not Sister Li died completely, and the blood poison effect on them disappeared directly. This system prompt surprised them. They were shocked that Qinfeng could kill the legendary boss in seconds, and they were also shocked that Qinfeng could kill Sister Li directly in the game. They didn't expect that as long as Sister Li died, the blood poison in their bodies would be eliminated. How could they not admire Qinfeng? Originally, Sister Li half forced them to hook up with Qinfeng, but now they naturally want to follow Qinfeng. After all, they have suffered too much by Sister Li's side for such a long time. If they don't obey, they will be hungry or even beaten. Sister Li also said that it was for their own good, so that they can be more liked by Shadow in the future. Now they are finally rescued. Moreover, from Shadow, they can feel an unimaginable sense of security in this era of the godforsaken game. If they can follow such a strong man, it is probably what most people dream of. And for them, there is good news that Shadow added them as friends. He also asked them math problems in private chat, although they still don't understand what Shadow meant by asking them math problems. But he added them as friends right away, so he should have a good impression of them, right? Fear Sister Li. Hate Sister Li. Hate Sister Li. Understand Sister Li after seeing Qinfeng in person. Their mentality has almost all changed. Follow Shadow. They are willing. Next, will Shadow take them away? Are the skills they have learned so far finally going to come in handy? But unfortunately, Qinfeng has no interest in these girls. The key is, he is afraid. No matter how beautiful a girl is, there is no guarantee that she will not backstab him. So, delete friends, delete friends, delete friends. Qinfeng deleted the 12 sisters from the friend list in one go. As for why he added friends to private chat to ask math questions just now, imagine, if you ask in person, then if one of them answers, the others can follow suit, and it will not be effective in distinguishing which one is the dead isopod. If there is no such process, the undead isopod may not explode and reveal its legs. When Qinfeng deleted the friend, summoned Osirio, and rode away, the 12 beautiful sisters were a little dumbfounded. What's going on? Why did you add us as friends? And then delete us as friends? Wow, doesn't the boss like us? No. Have you heard of a rumor that spread from Guanggang? Hey, are you talking about the Worm Queen incident? Men will be charmed when they get close, but gays won't. Yes, that's right. I heard that Shadow just rushed in and killed the boss. You even believe this kind of gossip? I think Shadow is just too loyal. Doesn't he have a little assassin codenamed Ghost at home? Wow, so touching. In fact, it's not just them. Even Osirio under Qinfeng's seat was a little reluctant to leave, with a look of regret. Boss, take those 12 sisters back, even if they are not the boss's wife. They will look good as vases. Experts have said that research shows that looking at beautiful women every day will make you feel happy. Qinfeng was a little speechless. When did this little broken dragon become an expert? Stop talking nonsense. There are many beauties in our Evil Spirit Academy. If you want to see them, go and see them yourself. After saying this, Qinfeng was too lazy to pay attention to it and opened the greedy space. A mythical skill book and a pair of mythical assassin boots can further enhance his combat power.